Would you let your 19th century ancestors into your home? This rhetoric question was posed by American Heritage magazine some years ago, and they finally decided probably not. They noted that the early 19th century Americans lived in a world of dirt, pungent smells, animal waste, and men who chewed and spit tobacco incessantly. European visitors writing about their trip to America were universally appalled at the yellow streaks of tobacco juice on men's shirts. They also smelled all the time. The reason they smelled, of course, is the fact that they did not bathe. What is particularly surprising to me is how very recent the bathroom as we know it, how recently it was invented. The name bathroom was not even coined until 1854. The simple act of bringing the bathroom inside the house required rethinking of human habits which are as old as time. When the Census Bureau began tabulating the numbers of bathrooms in the United States, they found that in 1940, a year which many of us remember very well, in 1940 there were only 50% of the households in the United States which had indoor bathrooms. Consider how recent the invention of the fundamental feature of the bathroom is, namely the toilet. Of all the standard conveniences of modern life, perhaps none is so simple and took so long to develop and come into common usage as the toilet. Or water closet, it was called in America and still is in Great Britain, but it was called water closet right up to the 1920s. After all, it is a relatively simple device made up of uncomplicated parts, requiring nothing in the way of computers and a power source not even as sophisticated as electricity. Basically, all it takes to make it work is a couple of gallons of water, and yet its general use is only a few generations old. In the 1880s, inventors realized that a siphon would cause water to move from one level to another. It's an old principle. They knew it back in Greek times. So that's all really a toilet requires. And yet, it was not patented in the United States until 1890. Imagine, the machine gun, the torpedo, had been patented years before the first working toilet was patented. By 1909, it was in common use, the one we know now, and the first time in the pages of the 1914 House and Garden magazine, the word toilet was used. Up to that time, water closet. That's not till 1914. One of the reasons for the late development of the bathroom was this. The water closet needed a water supply. By mid-19th century, the people were beginning to become aware of the fact that typhoid and cholera, and probably bacillary dysentery and some forms of hepatitis, which they didn't know about, all these were brought on by drinking contaminated drinking water, sewage-contaminated water. So in 1850, Boston was supplying 12,000 households with piped-in water, and New York's New Croton aqueduct system was doing about the same. They cost $8 a year, and you got your own water. However, it had no place to go. The first comprehensive underground sewer system in America was constructed in Chicago, but not until 1860. That was before the fire. From time immemorial, human waste has been associated with the outside. Everyone went outdoors to the privy. Actually, there was a precursor, but it worked on gravity. In Great Britain, an inventor in the 1840s made a water closet for Buckingham Palace for the use of Queen Victoria herself. It was an overhead cistern in an S-shaped trap, which is a pipe which blocked returning sewer gas. But it worked, but only worked on gravity alone. It's not like our siphon toilet. Oddly enough, the habit of bathing is also a very recent one. Now, the Romans, of course, had public baths, and they had public toilets as well. They were called latrinums, separate for men and women. If you've been to Pompeii, you know that they had public baths and public latrines. But after the fall of the Roman Empire, bathing pretty much went downhill. Throughout the Middle Ages, bathing had been thought to be unhealthy and deleterious to your health. The Puritans were particularly opposed to bathing. They felt it exposed what ought not to be exposed. John Wesley, the evangelist, on the other hand, was the one that wrote, "Cleanliness is next to godliness." I came across a diary. It was in American Heritage magazine some years back, and they noted in this diary that in the summer of 1799, a Philadelphia matron and diarist by the name of Elizabeth Drinker took a shower in her backyard. That is, buckets of water were poured on her, and she noted in her diary that she got all wet all over for the first time in 28 years. Why 28 years? Apparently she didn't think it was necessary for 28 years. Now, it's true, the small portable tubs, those little copper tubs, were used in the kitchen throughout the 19th century. Mainly they were for bathing children. I suppose they could bathe adults too, but the portable copper tub was also very hard to clean. Nothing like the porcelain tubs today. But they were always put in the kitchen because the kitchen was the warmest room in the house, and it had access to a kettle which would produce warm water. But the tub, as we know it now, that is a fixed appliance, did not appear until there was piped-in water, that is after the 1850 to 1860 water supply in the big cities outburst of Boston and New York. But oddly enough, in 1865, in the city of Albany, which had a population of 62,000 unscrubbed souls, there were only 18 bathtubs in town. Now, one of the factors which encouraged bathing was the increased availability of soap. As technology developed, it made mass production of soap practical. It came into increased use, but soap was still rare, and it was considered to be used just for the laundry. It wasn't until 1879 that Procter & Gamble's Ivory soap, the first personal soap, appeared on the market as a personal soap rather than as a laundry soap. Ivory, they said, could be used for either function. And to emphasize its dual nature, Ivory soap came with a notch down the center of it so that you could wrap a string around it and separate the two parts, use one part for the laundry and one part for personal use. So in an extraordinary bit of evolution, Americans began to devise a room which would have these wholly unrelated functions of bathing and elimination in the same place. That room was not even named until 1854, when it was the first time I've ever seen it found in print. It was in the magazine called Architecture of Country Houses in 1854. The room was called the bathroom. Thus was invented the bathroom. As bathrooms came into more popular use, many Americans who had older houses didn't have one, so they had to retrofit their home to make a bathroom. Usually they used a small upstairs bedroom, and that became the bath. If bathtubs inside homes and toilets inside homes are both modern ideas, that is, they were only about a century old, the idea of a shower is even more recent. The first showers were started as experiments in 1909. They were primitive, they were constructed with horizontal bars, and by 1926, however, there's an advertisement in a woman's magazine showing photographs of showers in connection with the tub. That is, it's up over the tub. So shower and tub combination were popular by 1926. But the notion of a separate stall shower in a home was considered unusual, very different up until the 1940s. If you have an older house which has a stall shower, that was probably retrofitted into the home. So then, come back to the original question. Would you let your ancestors into your home with their filthy hands which had not been washed, and their dirty faces, and their barnyard-smelling shoes and clothes, and their tobacco stains, and their overall body odor? Well, I think I'd just as soon interview them out on the sidewalk.